I think it was Emma Goldberg.
Emma Goldfarb. And it was a priceless moment.
That was her name, Goldman, not Goldfarb, Goldberg.
We went all over. We had problems sometimes keeping the lefties from the righties, the ones who we would make an appointment. If we were in a hotel, say in New York or something like this, we would have to make sure that they didn't cross. And then we had that wonderful experience where we did Dora Russell.
I had a great time with Rebecca West and Lady Dora Russell because they came in the studio at the same time and they hadn't seen each other for 40 years.
And at lunch, Warren kind of flicked his eye to Vittorio, and he caught on right away, and he ran back, and he set it up for two, and he invited the two of them to come together, and that was one of the most charming of the interviews because, you remember the days when, and oh, yes, all those wonderful things that came out.
Did you begin to say something, Dame Rebecca, about...
No. About what?
Rebecca West. The more I talked to her, the more beautiful she became. And when I would talk to these people, it seemed like every 10 minutes they'd get 5 years younger. And then finally they were my age. And then some of them got younger than I was, And the more accessible the period of 1915, 1920 became.
You know something that I think that there was just as much fucking going on then as now.
I remember that I had no sleep. I was completely exhausted. I sat down with Henry Miller, and he was as candid as anyone I've ever spoken to.
What I am curious about is if you could explain to me what the hell the First World War was all about.
Oh, my God, I was going to ask you that.
He was totally alive and alert and funny, and he said to me, he said, when I didn't really want to do this, he said, I thought you were going to turn out to be a stuffed shite. He said, but you're not a bad guy. And then he was telling me all of these stories, which some of them were shocking.
I remember my first adventure into that world was with a whore right near the Herald Square Theater on 35th Street.
We had this thing back and forth in which he would reach over and slap me on my leg, and I at some point I reached over and I slapped him on his leg, and it felt like a toothpick. Adela Rogers St. John was nothing if not lively.
Yeah, he said, look, I'm too big. I can't go walking around the streets when England is in trouble.
And she was the person who wrote the Nixon checkers speech, when he talked about his dog, and it sort of turned things around for him when things were